සංසාර සාරෝග විනීත නිසං සන්නේත සාතං සුචිසාර දේසං සන්දේරකං සොන්න තනුපලාසං සංලාපදේසින් පනමේ බිසාසං නමෝ තස්ස භගවතෝ අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස නමෝ තස්ස භගවතෝ අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස නමෝ තස්ස භගවතෝ අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස. Homage to the Exalted One, the Worthy One, the Supremely Enlightened One. Dassana kāmo sīlavataṃ saddhammaṃ soto micchati vinaya macchera malaṃ save sandoti vucchati. Venerable sirs, nuns, friends in the Dhamma, this is our second day of the monastic retreat. In this session, we are going to explain one of the main topics in Buddhism, which is Saddha, or confidence or faith. Saddha is one of the main topics in Buddhism. The Supreme Buddha explains very clearly, Saddha Molika Sabbepi Kusala Dhamma. Saddha or confidence is the foundation of all the wholesome activities. Saddha or confidence leads to all the qualities. The more we have Saddha in what the Blessed One explained, the more we have energy, mindfulness, concentration, and finally, wisdom. The 5 spiritual faculties or the 5 powers, Pancha Indriya or Pancha Bala. When we discuss the Saddha in 𝒮𝓾, we can see a lot of teachings about Saddha or confidence. No matter whatever we do, when we do something, we have confidence in what we do. Even we study something, even we do some activities, our jobs, everywhere, we have this confidence. According to our confidence, we have given the priority to do in our day-to-day activities. We can understand how much we have confidence in our life's activities. In a day, what we do is that our confidence. If we dedicate much time for our education, that means at this moment we are confident in our education. If we have given priority to feed our children, at this moment we have given the priority to feed our children. At this moment, if we spend many hours for our jobs, it means at this moment we have given the priority to earn money. That is the reality, whether we like or not. When we come to the spiritual life, confidence means confidence in what we practice. We have a spiritual goal or spiritual dream when we practice Dhamma. Especially when we come to the Dhamma in Buddhism, confidence means the faith in what the Buddha realized. That is the Saddha or Saddhati. The Buddha says very clearly in Arya Pariyesana Sutta, when he was practicing Dhamma with the 𝒮𝓾 and Uddhakarama Putta, the Buddha says, 𝒮𝓾 had Saddha or confidence. I also had Saddha or confidence. Uddhakarama Putta had Saddha or confidence. I also had the confidence or Saddha. Before the triple gem appeared in the world, Buddha says he had Saddha. What is that Saddha? Or competence. That means when he was practicing the doctrines of 𝒮𝓾 and 𝒮𝓃 he had confidence in what they teach, what they taught. That is why Buddha could attain some levels of jhanas before he attained enlightenment. There we can see, as a result of practicing jhana, we can overcome 5 hindrances: sensual pleasure, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry, skeptical doubts. There we can see one of them, 𝒮𝓾, skeptical doubt. That is the opposite of Saddha. And also, when we come to the Dhamma, when we attain Sotapanna stream entry, there also we can see 𝒮𝓾. What is the difference between these two places of 𝒮𝓾? When we come to the jhanas, when we practice jhanas, we should have confidence in what the teachers teach. And also, when we come to the Sotapanna, we overcome the skeptical doubt about the 5 aggregates. That is the difference. And also, when we go on the path of liberation, first of all, we should have confidence. For this confidence, we should have clear understanding what we practice, where we are going to. For an example, when we go to a new place that never we have gone, first of all, we should know the place, address or destination where we are going to. Without knowing the place where we are going to, we never start our trip. Like that, when we come to the Dhamma, first of all, we should have confidence in our practice, our destination, our goal. What is our goal? Liberating from suffering, letting go from suffering. That is the purpose of our spirituality. For that goal, we should know about the practice. For that, we should have confidence in our practice. In order to cultivate our confidence, we have to fulfill 4 things as Sotapatti Anga, Sappurisa Sanseva, associating with good friends, Saddhamma Savana, listening to Dhamma, Yoniso Manasikara, wise consideration, and Dhamma Patipatti, practice of Dhamma. These 3 things are very important to go forward in our confidence. That is very important. The more we listen to Dhamma, the more we cultivate our confidence in our practice. For that, we have to associate with good friends again and again. Here, associating with good friends plays a very big role. Kalyana mittata, kalyana sahayata, kalyana sampavangata. We should have good friends, noble association. Mostly we have good association. Not only that, kalyana sahayata. We should make friends. We should close to them with our qualities. Kalyana sahayata. And also kalyana sampavangata. We should lend to them. That is very important. We should pay our attention to what they say. These 3 things are very important. Most of people in the world, they have already received the good association, but they don't have these qualities, 𝐂𝐿�යාණ 𝐵𝑎𝑛 and 𝐂𝐿�යාණ 𝐼𝑒𝑛. 𝐂𝐿යාණ මිතතා, 𝐂𝐿යාණ සහායතා, and 𝐂𝐿යාණ සම්පවංගතා. These three things are very important at the very beginning of the path of liberation, path of understanding confidence or Saddha. When we have these qualities, we are ready to listen to Dhamma. Through listening to Dhamma, we have confidence in what we practice, where we are going to. Here, when we listen to Dhamma, we understand what happens to my life and what happens to the world. The very first step of wisdom we have that we have the confidence in the karmic law. That is the first understanding that we receive through our Saddha. That is said in Buddhism as Mano Pobbangama Dhamma, Mano Saddha Manomaya, so on. Mind is the forerunner, mind is chief, mind made Dade. If someone does something with an impure mind, suffering follows him because of impure mind. The second one, if someone does something with a pure mind, happiness follows him because of pure mind. This is the very first understanding, confidence that we receive through listening to Dhamma. Having this understanding, we have courage to overcome negativities, 𝒮𝓃 not to do any evil, and 𝒃 practicing good deeds. If we know very well that when our mind is polluted, we have to face some problems, suffering, we never like to suffer. Therefore, we overcome evils from our life. 𝒮𝑃. And also, if we know very well that when our mind is pure and calm, if we do something with a pure mind, physically, verbally, or mentally, we have courage to practice good deeds, kusala practicing good deeds. As a result of this understanding and confidence, we practice three meritorious deeds. දානංච සමචාරයංච මෙත්ත චිත්තංච භාවේ. Generosity, morality, and loving kindness meditation. These are the three meritorious deeds. As the result of practicing these three qualities, we purify our mind, we cultivate our mind, especially in the mundane level, low-tier level, based on the conventional truth. The highest meritorious act that we can perform is Metta Bhavana or loving kindness meditation. According to 𝒮𝓃 ℒ𝒶𝓃 Sutta, Buddha says very clearly, among the all good activities, meritorious deeds based on the mundane level, in the low-tier level, based on the conventional truth, the highest quality, the highest meritorious act is that Metta Bhavana or loving kindness meditation. Not only we practice the loving kindness meditation, Metta Sagata Manokamma in the meditation hall, but we practice it everywhere. Metta Sagata Vachikamma, Metta Sagata Kayakamma. We do activities physically and verbally with metta thoughts. If we have this mindset, mentality, we can overcome a lot of unwholesome activities, evils, negativities from our life. As a result of practicing this technique, Metta Bhavana, as soon as we meet a person, we think that person like our son or daughter, only son or daughter. This is the highest attitude of practicing Metta Bhavana. If we have this attitude, we have no greed, we have no anger, we have no conceit, we have no jealousy. We are so friendly with others. We have compassion. We have sympathetic joy. We have metta. We have equanimity. It means we practice all the meritorious deeds in our life when we have this metta bhavana. Metta bhavana is the highest quality among the meritorious deeds in the mundane level based on the conventional truth. When we contemplate on that, may all beings be well, happy and peaceful, we can generate positive thoughts in our mind, but still we have 𝒮𝓾, self-view. Myself, there are beings, we have that concept, we know it, but we use it as a meditation technique in order to cultivate positive thoughts and in order to concentrate our mind. We practice it in order to go to the final liberation. Samatha or concentration is not the final goal of practicing Dhamma. That is the middle. The very first one is Sila, the second one, the middle is Samadhi, and the third one is Panya. We practice Samatha based on ignorance, based on the conventional truth, in order to overcome mundane level qualities, in order to attain the supra-mundane level, ultimate truth. But we do it with understanding, since already we have heard about the Dhamma. Especially when we come to this level, we should have to listen to the main topic in Buddhism, which is the dependent origination or five aggregates or the Four Noble Truths. The very first understanding and trust in what the Buddha taught is understanding the karmic law. Whatever we do with intention, we will have the same results. If our minds are impure, the results are negative. The results are evil. When mind is pure and calm, the results are fruitful. Results are happy. With this understanding, we practice good deeds as much as we can. And also, automatically, the supreme blessings will happen in our life, according to Mangala Sutta. When we keep our mind pure and calm, with the understanding of the karmic law, automatically we fulfill supreme blessings. Dhanancha, Dhammacharyacha, ඤාතකානංච Sangho, Pūjāca Pūjanīyancam, Kālena Dhamma Savanam, Kālena Dhamma Sākaccā. These are the supreme blessings in our life. And also, when we come to the next level, the second level of our understanding that we trust in what the Buddha taught is that understanding how suffering arises and how suffering ceases, based on the dependent origination, five aggregates, and the Four Noble Truths. Here, we should understand what happens to our life. Our entire life is 6 internal senses and 6 external objects. And also we should understand what happens to our life at this moment. When we see something, we think that there is something at the moment. That thing was here before I see it. And also it will remain after I see it. This is the nature of our present experience that we know. That is not the reality. And also we think that when we see something, when we hear something, when we taste smell something, we think that that is thin, that experience which is pleasant or unpleasant comes from outside. But the reality is not that. Outside world, forms, smell, taste, colors, actually they are neither pleasant nor unpleasant. They are neither wholesome nor unwholesome. They are neutral. When we see something, several steps have passed. When we see something, actually it means what we understand something. When we understand something, several steps have been passed. What they are? Eye, color, eye consciousness, eye contact, vipaka mano dhatu in the vipaka level, vipaka mano vijnana dhatu. These things which belongs to the neutral, they have already ceased. Finally, based on these things, with mind, mental objects, and mind consciousness, we understand something. When we understand something through our 6 senses or 5 senses, the very first experience based on the vipaka level or result level that we receive according to our previous mental situation have already ceased. If we have this understanding, as soon as we see something, we come to insight, that is insight meditation, vipassana bhavana. If we are ignorant, our mind depends on the material world. If our mind depends on the outside material world, it means we are not away from decay, sickness, death, sorrow, lamentation, grief, pain. All the sufferings come to our life because of ignorance. Avidya paccaya sankhara, sankhara paccaya vijnana, and so on. On the other side, as soon as we see something, if we can understand, now I recognize these things through my mind consciousness, we can overcome depending on the material world. If our mind doesn't depend on the material world, we don't have any kind of sufferings which based on the material world or persons. This is the place where we should have confidence. And also here, we should understand a very important thing, what is the dukkha or dukkha satya. Dukkha satya, firstly we can see in 𝐒𝐾 ℒ𝒶𝓃, jati dukkha, jara dukkha, so on. Birth is suffering, decay is suffering, sickness is suffering, death is suffering. Those are the things finally we can understand. Sankirtena panchpadanakkhandha dukkha, in short, arising of 5 aggregates is suffering. This is the common thing that we can understand. But we can see very special thing. According to the very first sermon that Buddha has delivered, Dhammagaru Sutta, which comes in Samyutta Nikaya and Vinaya Pitaka Pali. Buddha says, Pubbe anunusutesu dhammesu cakkung udapadi, jnanam udapadi, panya udapadi, so on. The worthy one says, when I attain enlightenment, I realized something that I had never heard. Before the Bodhisattva did his renunciation, he had known that decay, sickness, death. That is not the special thing in his life. Buddha realized very special thing. That is why the Supreme Buddha says, Pubbe anunusotesu dhammesu chakkhung udapadi, jnanam udapadi, so on. Buddha says, I realized something that I had never heard. Chakkhung udapadi, eye arose. Jnanam udapadi, knowledge arose. Panya udapadi, wisdom arose. Vidya udapadi, science arose. Aloka udapadi, light arose. What is this light? What is this science? What is this eye? What is this knowledge? When we refer this eye, we find a very special teaching in Buddhism which comes in 𝒮𝓾 in 𝒮𝓾. 𝒮𝓾 is very important. When we understand 𝒮𝓾 or Four Noble Truths in Buddhism, firstly we can find Dhammagaru Sutta or Vinaya Pitaka Mahavagga Pali. Then we can find the 𝒮𝓾 Samyutta in Samyutta Nikaya. Again, we can see 𝒮𝓾 Katha which comes in Patisambhida Magga. And also, again, we can find something Vibhanga Prakarana, 𝒮𝓾 Vibhanga. And also, especially, we can find some teachings in the Four Noble Truths which comes in 𝒮𝓾 Prakarana, 𝒮𝓾. There, Dhamma explains the difference between dukkha and dukkha 𝒮𝓾, samudaya and samudaya 𝒮𝓾, magga and magga 𝒮𝓾, nirodha and nirodha 𝒮𝓾. If we want to understand the Four Noble Truths very clearly, we should refer these references. Mahavagga Paliya, 𝒮𝓾 Samyutta, 𝒮𝓾 Katha, 𝒮𝓾 Vibhanga, and also finally 𝒮𝓾. In 𝒮𝓾, we can see the difference between dukkha and dukkha 𝒮𝓾, suffering and the noble truth of suffering, cessation and the noble truth of the cessation of suffering, cessation, nirodha, and the noble truth of the cessation of suffering, and also magga and magga 𝒮𝓾, path and the path that leads to getting rid of suffering as a noble truth. Among these four things, I would like to explain the first one, the difference between dukkha and dukkha 𝒮𝓾, suffering and the noble truth of suffering. Suffering can be understood by anyone. Jati dukkha, jara dukkha, vyadhi dukkha. These things are very easy to understand by anyone. Buddha also has explained those things, but Buddha has realized, discovered, and proclaimed something to the world, very special thing, which is that Dhamma explains, kāyikan dukkhaṃ ķētasika dukkhaṃ ṭhapetvā avasēsaṃ dukkha saccam. If there anything besides physical suffering and mental suffering, that is the noble truth of suffering. And also again it says, kāyikan dukkhaṃ ķētasika dukkhaṃ dukkhaṃ ca dukkha saccam ca. Physical suffering and the mental suffering are suffering and the noble truth of suffering as well. This is very difficult to understand if you are listening to it firstly. But however, please remember the place where it comes later. Please refer it again and again. This is the place where we should show our skill. Sometimes we may have some, educational qualifications. We have some language skills among them. Even though we don't have those qualifications, if we can understand this reality according to what the Dhamma explains, this is the place where we can show our skillfulness. There explains that 𝐁𝐼𝐾 ℒ𝒶𝓃 ℒ𝒶𝓃𝓀𝒾 ℒ𝒂 if there is something besides physical suffering and mental suffering, that is the noble truth of suffering, that is not suffering. This is the place where that the Buddha realized, discovered and proclaimed to the world. Again Buddha says, 𝐻𝐼𝐾 ℒ𝒃 ℒ𝒂 ℒ𝒃 Physical suffering and the mental suffering are suffering and the noble truth of suffering as well. Here we can see a difference between suffering and the noble truth of suffering. How do we say it? The very first one. If there are anything physical suffering, besides physical suffering and mental suffering, that is the noble truth of suffering. What is that? It means the very first experience if we have when we contact something. When we contact something through our eye, when we contact something through our ear, nose, so on, through our five senses, if we contact something, especially 𝒃ℾ, ℒ𝒃 ℾ ℰ if you have any experiences through these senses, the very first experience is neither suffering nor happy. That is neither pleasant nor unpleasant. That is neither wholesome nor unwholesome. That is neutral. The very first experience is very instant. It arises and ceases very quickly. We can get some very primary level experience. Dhamma explains according to ඥාන විභංග ප්‍රකරණ. න පංචහි විඥානේහි කිංචි ධම්මං පටිවිජානාති අඤ්ඤත්‍ර අබිනිපාතමත්තා. We are unable to recognize something completely through five senses, five consciousnesses, eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, so on. By these five consciousnesses, we are unable to recognize something completely. We have only the very primary level perception or understanding. We usually recognize something after it has been ceased. The very first experience is neither pleasant nor unpleasant. That is neutral. Even though Buddhism explains the word dukkha, actually it cannot be translated to any language. We have no real word even in single language. Dukkha satya. But usually we use suffering or unsatisfactoriness. Actually, when we explain it to the world, they reject the Dhamma. Buddhism always explains the negative things, suffering. But see the wonder of the Dhamma. Dukkha satya is neither pleasant nor unpleasant. That is neither physical or mental sufferings. And also again it explains the second one. 𝐻𝐼𝐾 ℒ𝒃 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 like the Dhammagaru Sutta, 𝒁𝑎පි දුක්ඛ, ජරාපි දුක්ඛ, so on. There explains suffering and the noble truth of suffering as well. if we have some sufferings, normal sufferings that the normal people face in their day-to-day life, such as aging, sickness, death, sorrow, lamentation, they are sufferings, and also they are the noble truth of suffering as well. Why is that? That suffering arises based on the very first experience, which is the neutral, which is the noble truth of suffering. Therefore, we explain the normal suffering as suffering and the noble truth of suffering as well. The very first truth should be understood. Buddha doesn't explain to overcome the first noble truth, dukkha satya. Dukkha satyam parinyayam, the noble truth of suffering should be realized, should be understood. The second one, the origin of suffering, should be overcome. Samudaya satyam pahatamam. There were some ascetic people in Buddha's time who explained to overcome the very first experience, such as Parasarya, according to Indriya Bhavana Sutta. He teaches his disciples 𝒮𝓃 ℒ𝒶𝓃 how he explained the discipline for the liberation. Not to see something, not to hear something. That is the discipline or liberation that Parasarya has explained. Does Buddha accept it? No, Buddha didn't accept it. Buddha says, if it is true, there are some people who are blind and deaf. There could be ascetic people. There should be people who are liberated from suffering. The very first experience should not be overcome. The very first experience should be understood. Dukkha satyam parinyayam. This is the place where we should be confident in what the Buddha explained. Saddha 𝒮𝓾 ℒ𝒶𝓃. This is the real place where we are confident in what the Buddha explained, what the Buddha understood and realized and proclaimed to the world. On the other side, when we understand the dukkha satya, we should understand 5 aggregates and the dependent origination too. These 3 things are interrelated. 4 noble truths, the dependent origination, and the 5 aggregates. There we can see Buddha says very clearly, in the past and the present, I explain only 2 things, which are suffering and the cessation of suffering. What is suffering? When we are ignorant, we are in the samsaric circle, avidya paccaya sankhara, so on. And also he explains the cessation of suffering. Whenever we can overcome ignorance or delusion, avidya, we can overcome the samsaric circle. Ascend in order and descend in order. Anuloma patiloma. Avidya paccaya sankhara, ascend in order. Anuloma. Avidya ati vasesa viraga nirodha, that is descend in order. Patiloma. It is Patisampada. And also, if someone can understand this, it means he can understand the 4 noble truths. Suffering and the origin of suffering. And also the cessation of suffering and the path that leads to getting rid of suffering. And also he can realize the 5 aggregates. Every moment 5 aggregates arise. In the vipaka level they are neutral. In the new karmic level, it based on ignorance, and the Nirodha Satya, the Arhantas have overcome the clinging to the 5 aggregates, and also the person who is on the path of liberation, who are practicing the Noble Eightfold Path, he is overcoming the clinging to the five aggregates. These three things, the dependent origination, Four Noble Truths, and the five aggregates are interrelated. If we have this understanding through listening to Dhamma, we have confidence in how we can overcome suffering. Whenever we are ignorant, we depend on the outside material world. If our mind depends on the outside material world, we are suffering. Nobody likes to get sufferings. Nobody likes suffering. If we want to overcome suffering, we have to overcome ignorance. Avidyayatve vasiyasya viraga nirodha sankara nirodho. With the complete cessation of ignorance, we can overcome jara, vyadhi, marana. If you have this understanding, we go forward on this path, since our inner motivation gradually increases with this understanding. First of all, we should have the Saddha ℒ𝒶𝓃, the characteristic of faith or confidence. When we go forward little by little, we overcome the Saddha ℒ𝒶𝓃 or the characteristic of believing. Until we come to Sotapanna, the extreme entry, we trust in what the Buddha taught. After we overcome that level, we don't need to confident in what the Buddha taught about the Sotapanna. Buddha can help some persons in order to achieve Sotapanna. But even 100 Buddhas are unable to give away a person from Sotapanna who has already become the Sotapanna, since that is their own experience after they attain. Saddha ℒ𝒶𝓃, or the characteristic of believing, we should have until we come to that level. After we pass in it, then we don't have believing. But we have sampasadana ℒ𝒶𝓃, the characteristic of appreciation, admiration. We are pleased to the Buddha's message. While we are going on the path of liberation until arahantship, our saddha, the characteristic of sampasadana, admiration, gradually increases to the maximum level until we attain enlightenment. But we gradually overcome the characteristic of trust, faith, or confidence. Confidence is needed until we come to that level. For an example, when you go to a place, new place, first of all, you should trust in the address or person who explains the path. Until you reach the destination, you have confidence. But after you reach the destination, you don't need the faith or confidence, but you have pleasant mind when you come to the destination about who explained the address. Similarly, when we go forward, little by little, we overcome the characteristic of saddha or faith, trust in confidence, but on the other side, the admiration or being pleasant gradually increases when we go forward. There is a very special story about the 𝒮𝓃 ℒ𝒶𝓃. One day, 𝒮𝓃 ℒ𝒶𝓃 went to another religious place. When he went there, a person asked 𝒮𝓃 ℒ𝒶𝓃, "My dear friend, 𝒮𝓃 ℒ𝒶𝓃, do you believe, do you trust in the Buddha, what he said about the second jhana? 𝒮𝓾 says, my dear friend, I don't believe what the Buddha taught about the second jhana. Avitaka, avichara, so on, the second jhana. 𝒮𝓾 says, I don't believe Buddha's words. I don't trust in the second jhana. Then that person was so happy. 𝒮𝓾 is a very famous person, very famous disciple of the Buddha. He doesn't believe the Buddha's word, the second jhana. Then that person asked again, my dear friend 𝒮𝓾, don't you believe it? He says, yes, I don't believe. Then 𝒮𝓾 asked that person, my friend, do you think what is the more important? Trusting or confidence or experiencing? Then that person says, my friend, experience is more important than confidence, faith or trust in something. Then 𝒮𝓾 says, my friend, I have experiences about the second jhana. Then I don't need to trust in what the Buddha taught. Already I am experiencing the second jhana. I don't need to trust in what the Buddha taught. Then that person was surprised. This is the nature of the confidence. We need the confidence until we come to the destination, until we come to our goal. When we pass our goal, we don't need to trust, but we have the pleasant mind. We are pleased to the person who explained this message. That is why in the 𝒮𝓃 when a person becomes the Sotapanna, the extreme entry, he has Buddhi avijja prasadana, Dhamma avijja prasadana, Sangha avijja prasadana. When a person becomes the Sotapanna, the extreme entry, he has unshakable admiration in the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha. He is pleased to the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. His entire world is 𝒮𝓾. Wherever what he see everywhere the Buddha's message, Dhamma and the noble Sangha. Finally, these three things are interrelated. Buddha, what we respect. We respect the Buddha. Buddha means the Buddha's enlightenment, his understanding. That is why Buddha says, Yo Dhamma passati somam passati. He who sees the Dhamma sees the Buddha. He who sees the Dhamma sees the Buddha. Again the Buddha says, Yo patisampadam passati, so Dhammam passati. Yo Dhammam passati, so patisampadam passati. He who sees the causality or the divine origination sees the Dhamma. He who sees the Dhamma sees the patisampada, the divine origination. Here it is very clear that understanding the divine origination leads to understand the Dhamma. Understanding Dhamma leads to understand the Buddha. And also when we see the Sangha, Sangha means the noble Sangha, Ujupatipanna, Supatipanna, Nyayapatipanna, Samichipatipanna. What is that? Their practice, the Noble Eightfold Path, the Dhamma. Dhamma is the link of these three things, the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha. Finally, understanding the divine origination, in short, understanding, arising and ceasing of suffering. With this understanding, we dedicate our entire life to practice Dhamma, virya, energy gradually increases to the maximum level. That energy goes to our entire life through our skin, our muscles, through our skeleton. It goes to our entire life, energy. As the result of this energy, we practice Dhamma, Sati, right mindfulness. That is why, according to 𝒮𝓃 ℒ𝒶𝓃, whenever a person practices Sati or Samma Sati, right mindfulness, he should have other two qualities, right effort, Samma Vayama, and Samma Ditti, right understanding. Right understanding, Samma Ditti, right effort, Samma Vayama, and Samma Sati, right mindfulness are interrelated. These three things should be together. Whenever we practice mindfulness, it means we have right effort and right understanding as well. With this understanding, always we come to the good friendship and we listen to Dhamma again and again. We practice generosity. There are three characteristics of the Saddhavanta person, the person who has confidence or Saddha. 𝒮𝓾 ℒ𝒶𝓃. He likes to see the virtuous persons. Saddhamma ℒ𝒶𝓃. He always ready to listen to Dhamma. 𝑣නයමච්චේරමලං. He is generous. He overcomes greed. He is so generous. He has a generous heart. He always wants to see the virtuous persons. Through the good association, always he needs to listen to Dhamma. From the beginning to end, even a person attains enlightenment, still he is listening to Dhamma, doing some Dhamma discussions for the 𝒮𝓃 ℒ𝒶𝓃 ℒ𝒃 and for the well-being of other people. And Saddha or confidence. When we have confidence, we have energy, virya, and also samadhi, mindfulness. And when we practice mindfulness again and again with right effort, Samma Vayama, we gradually come to concentration by using mindful meditation objects. We come to Samma Samadhi, right concentration. That is Samadhi Indriya. When mind gains concentration, since we have already heard the process of arising and cessation of suffering, we reflect on impermanence as it is. That belongs to Panya, insight meditation or Vipassana Bhavana. The more we concentrate our mind, the more we come to insight meditation. Buddha says, Atti bhikkhave Dhamma abhiññā bhāve. As a wise person, the highest qualities that we can practice are samatō-ca, vipassana-ca. As a wise person with his supramundane knowledge, the highest qualities that he can practice are concentration and wisdom. We are monastic people. We are monastics. We are very close to the triple gem. We are very close to the Dhamma. We have dedicated our entire life for spiritual life. There we should cultivate, develop these two qualities day by day. What they are? In one side, we should cultivate, we should develop concentration by using concentration meditation techniques, samatha bhavana kamata, such as metta bhavana, buddhanusati, dhatu manasikara, anapanasati. Using these techniques in our day-to-day life, we can cultivate, we can purify our mind, and finally it helps us to concentrate our minds. The more we purify our mind, the more we attain the jhana level or concentration, the more we come to that level, the more we purify our minds from hindrances, pancha nivarana. When we reduce pancha nivarana, we can cultivate jhana anga, vitakka, vichara, piti, sukha. These are the facts of jhana, especially we can see here sukha or rapture, happiness. We go on this path for liberation, having happiness, contentment, rapture. That is the very important thing. The more we practice Dhamma, the more we are happier. We go on this path happily with others. Not only we are happy, but we share this happiness with others, guiding others, helping others, pointing out this message to others. We go forward on this path. Not only that, when we come to the panya or wisdom, passing the concentration, again we can see piti. Where is it? In 7 enlightenment factors. Bojjhanga. Sati sambojjhanga, Dhamma vicaya sambojjhanga, virya sambojjhanga, piti sambojjhanga. Rapture or piti is one of the enlightenment factors that we can meet on the path of our spiritual journey. That is very important. Finally, as the result of this practice, change in our perception, we can think anything as we like. Appatikole patikula sanye viharati. If we have pleasant experience, if we want to change it into unpleasant, we can do it. When we see a very beautiful person, such as our Premananda Hangro, we can immediately focus on his internal body and we can see his skeleton, other things, impurities of his physical body. When we meet a very old person, unpleasant person, if we want to change our perception, we can think that person when he was very young age, at the age of 18 or 19, that person, she or he was very beautiful. Changing our perception, we can think that person positively. And also the very special thing, if we can keep our attention completely in wisdom, reflecting on impermanence, we see the world as empty. Then we don't find anything outside. When we understand something, I recognize everything through my mind consciousness, we see the world as empty. 𝒮𝓃 ℒ𝒶𝓃𝓀𝒶. There we see nothing in the material world. The material world has ceased when we understand it. Then we can come to neutral, 𝒮𝓃. Appatikole patikole, both of them we can overcome and also we can come to neutral, equanimity. This is the wonder of the Dhamma. How nice. We have received a very sublime message, blissful message, having this confidence, we can go forward. That is why the Buddha says, Saddha 𝒮𝓃 ℒ𝒶𝓃 Dhamma. Saddha or confidence is the foundation of all the wholesome activities. සියලුම කුසල දහම් වල පදනම ශ්‍රද්ධාව කියලා දේශනා කළා. What are the wholesome activities? They are the Bodhipakkhiya Dhamma. The 37 enlightenment factors are based on confidence. When we are confident in what the Buddha explained, we practice සතිපට්ඨාන, සතර සම්‍යක් ප්‍රධාන වීරිය, සතර රිද්ධිපාද, පංචේන්ද්‍රිය, පංච බල, සත්බොධ්‍යංග, ආරෂ්ඨික මාර්ග, all things are gradually cultivated as a result of this confidence. And our entire life focuses on practice. Everywhere we practice the Noble Eightfold Path. 𝒮𝓾 ℒ𝒶𝓃 ℒ𝒃 ℮. This is the direct path. This is the fearless path. The Buddha says, Mandapeya midam bhikkhave brahmacharya. Brahmacharya means Aryaṭṭhaṅgika Magga. Brahmacharya has several means. One of them is that Aryaṭṭhaṅgika Magga. Mandapeya midam bhikkhave brahmacharya. Practicing the Noble Eightfold Path is like a very sweet drink, honey. That is a very good example. Having this experience, gradually we should go forward. The more we go forward on this path, the more we are confident and pleased to the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha. Our entire life is the triple gem. Finally, we come to the Dhamma. What is the Dhamma? Atta deepa bhikkhave vihrata atta saranana anya sarana. Dhamma deepa bhikkhave vihrata dhamma saranana anya sarana. Dwell with yourself as an island, as a refuge, with no other refuge. Dwell with the Dhamma as a refuge, no other refuge. What is the practice? How do we make a refuge within us? Practicing mindfulness. Practicing mindfulness is the way how we make a refuge within us. Even though Buddha passed away, we don't suffer. Even though Sariputta and Moggallana, our noble disciples, passed away, we don't suffer since we have made a refuge within us by practicing mindfulness. That is the real protection. That is the refuge. That is the way how we achieve the emancipation, liberation, enlightenment. Okay, this is the thing that I wanted to explain you on the topic of Saddha or confidence in Buddha's teachings. If you have any question, you can ask. Venerable says, nuns, friends in Dhamma.
And it came to my mind, there are two words that used for Saddha. First one, believe something, that is faith. And second, experience level. No, second, trust. Third is the experience level. It seems to, this is my summary for that. The first, we don't know what is in there. But to get in there, we have to have some kind of interest there, attachment there. That is belief. So, through listening, through participating in discussions, we have to develop our faith for what? to trust it, to experience it, to trust it. The experience is the last part. And then experiencing yourself, and after that there is nothing to lose. Because you are experiencing, you are enjoying at that moment.
Yes.
I think same thing.
Trust, believe, or faith in the first level. We can say all things are together in the same level. Trust, faith, or belief. Then we have inner motivation in order to practice it. When we practice it, we experience it, we see the results. In several steps, in the Sotapanna level, in the stream entry, we can see some results.
Is the same thing explained in 𝒮𝓾
Once we experience it, we don't lose Saddha.
Yes,
We have pasada.
That's right.
So when we experience it, we are not going to lose it.
Yeah.
We develop more deeper,
We enjoy it.
with deep appreciation. And
Yeah,
that-
yeah. I mean, in 𝒮𝓾 that taking as a simile the raft, we have to attach to the raft until we cross the river.
Yeah, but then after we cross the river, we leave the raft.
Leave the raft.
Yeah,
Which
but-
means, so we don't need to depend on our beliefs and our faith
Yes.
because we are experiencing them.
Yes,
Yeah,
that is
but in the
fine.
case of Saddha, once you cross the path, doesn't mean that you leave Saddha, because Saddha has
No,
the
no.
other aspect.
Yes, it's turning into different level.
Yes.
That is the thing that we explained about the 𝒮𝓾 He doesn't have no more confidence or faith.
Yeah.
But he was pleased to the Buddha. His appreciation
Yeah.
in his heart, it gradually grows. But he doesn't need to trust more, since that is his own experience. On the other things, the more we experience, the more we have vijja vimutti. Vijja means knowledge or understanding or wisdom, and vimutti means liberation. Even Sotapanna, even who have jhanas, they also have the vijja vimukti. We have some references, such as 𝐁𝐮𝐝 Sutta. 𝐁𝐮𝐝 Sutta, Bhante Ananda and Bhante 𝐁𝐮 came to the Buddha having the news of passing away of Sariputta. Venerable Ananda was so sad. Buddha asked him, Ananda, why are you crying? Did Sariputta carry on your Vijja Vimukti, Sila Samadhi Panya Vimukti Vimukti? At that moment, Venerable Ananda was only Sotapanna person. There also Buddha has used the Vijja Vimukti. According to the Sotapanna, Venerable Ananda had received some Vijja Vimukti, knowledge and liberation. Even the person who comes to jhanas, they also have some kind of liberation. When we come to Sakadagami, Anagami, and finally Arahanta, there also we can see some kind of liberation. Finally, we liberate from everything when we come to Anupadisesa Nibbana. When Arahantas are passing away, they liberate from everything.
We all have Shraddha but in different levels.
Yes, it is different.
That's why the Buddha
As soon as Buddha met a person, Buddha had a very special psychic energy, Indriya Paro Pariyatti Jnana, the knowledge of, the understanding of the variations of the spiritual faculties. As soon as Buddha met a person, Buddha read their minds, how much that person has cultivated these 5 spiritual faculties in his previous lives. Especially Buddha focuses on that person's panya, the spiritual faculty of wisdom. According to their spiritual faculties, Buddha starts the sermon. If that person is very gifted, Buddha explains the highest level of doctrines, such as when he explained 𝒮𝓃 ℒ𝒶𝓃 𝐴𝐻𝐻 𝐵𝐻𝐻 𝒂𝓃 Buddha says in 𝐵𝐻𝐻 Sutta how 𝐵𝐻𝐻 should practice Dhamma. When you have seen something, that is seen. When you heard something, that is hearing. That is the highest level of explanation of the path of liberation. Directly, the Buddha explains the way how we practice insight meditation. When Buddha met some very gifted persons, and also Buddha read other spiritual faculties too, as you said, Saddha, Virya, so on. Therefore, these spiritual faculties are the real treasure in our life. We should dedicate our entire life for developing these spiritual faculties. These are the real treasure, real wealth in our life, since a Buddha makes us, as soon as he met a Buddha, Buddha immediately reads our spiritual faculties. Buddha doesn't care how many languages we can speak, how many degrees, master degrees, doctorates that we have, how much we are beautiful. Buddha doesn't care it. Buddha directly focuses on the spiritual faculties of a person. Therefore, we should give the priority to practice, cultivate and develop these spiritual faculties in our life. For that, from the beginning to end, we have to associate with four things. Associating with the good friends, listening to Dhamma, wise consideration and practice. These four things are very important from the beginning to end of the path of liberation. Listening to Dhamma is also a place where we attain enlightenment. That is 𝒮𝓃. While we are listening to Dhamma, we can liberate from some negative thoughts from our mind. That is why Buddha says, according to 𝒮𝓃 Sutta, listening to Dhamma also one of the places that we can liberate. Not only that, even preaching Dhamma, explaining Dhamma also a place where we can liberate. According to 𝒮𝓃 Sutta, end of the 𝒮𝓃 Sutta, the listeners, 60 monks attained enlightenment. At the same time, Bhante 𝒮𝓃, who preached the Dhamma, also attained enlightenment. Therefore, this is a place where we can liberate from suffering, from our defilements, craving, anger and delusion. At this moment, your minds are so beautiful, so calm, so pure. At this moment, you have no any negativities, especially 5 hindrances. You have no 5 hindrances. Even though we have ignorance in some levels, since still we think that there is a world around us that is based on ignorance or delusion, but we have reduced hindrances to the maximum level at this moment. Any other question? Yes.
That actual Saddha rises up with someone becoming Sotapanna level, is that right?
Yes, Achara Saddha, unshakable confidence of faith in the Buddha's message. That is why according to Sotapanna Anga, Buddhe avecca pasadena samanagato hoti, Dhamme avecca pasadena samanagato hoti, Sanghe avecca pasadena samanagato hoti, Aryakantena silena samanagato hoti. These are the 5 results that we receive when we attain the Sotapanna the extreme entry. We have unshaken trust, unshaken pasada.
You are finding English word to translate.
It is very difficult to say a very correct word for pasada. Pasada means we are pleased to the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. That is unshakable, unshaken. Achal Saddha. Even Buddha can't change that person's Saddha. That is why one day Buddha met a person on the way while Buddha was begging or going somewhere. Immediately Buddha met that person. Buddha explained the path of Sotapanna, how he can attain Sotapanna. At the moment, immediately he attained Sotapanna. Buddha left that person. Mara, or the evil person, evil one, saw that incident. He came to that person, changing his appearance like the Buddha. Buddha firstly explained, my friend, the world is impermanent, dissatisfactory and selfless. That person, like the Buddha, the evil person, came to that person and says, my friend, I had some mistake. Everything is permanent, not impermanent. Everything is happening, suffering, not suffering. Everything is happy, enjoyment. Everything is self. Then that person says that, no, you are not the real Buddha. You are not the real Buddha. Everything is impermanent. Everything is dissatisfactory. Everything is selfless. That person is not the Buddha. But even Buddha, even Arhantas are unable to change a person when a person attains Sotapanna. That is the wonder of the Dhamma. Okay? Thank you so much for your good attention and participation. We really appreciate your participation in this very spiritual program, monastic retreat. This is the end of the second day of the retreat. We appreciate all the Bhantes, Bhante Ji, Bhante Saddha Jiva, Bhante Dhammaratana, Bhante Mangala, Bhante Rahula. They are working hard, and our lay people, they are preparing us for the very delicious food, very good experience. We really appreciate your dedication, your help, your support for the monks, for the monastics. By the power of all these activities, may all of you be well, happy and peaceful. May no harm come to you. May no problems come to you. May all your spiritual and educational goals meet with success. Finally, may all of us attain the supreme bliss of liberation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Dukkham pantāya nirdukkhaṃ, bhayam pantāya nirbhayam, sokam pantāya nissokam, hontu sabbe pipānino. May all beings be well, happy and peaceful. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.